Welcome to another episode of Our Schools, Our Future, where WLAE gives us the opportunity to let you know the wonderful things that are happening in our area schools. This week we have Dr. Karen Collins, the president of St. Augustine High School, as well as Mr. Jared Howitt, the principal at St. Clement of Rome. Also joining us is Mr. Kevin Calkins, a new associate superintendent in the Office of Catholic Schools. We'll be right back after these messages.
We never forget our best teachers, the ones who do so much more than teach. They inspire and insist we bring our best in everything we do. We find those mentors in our Catholic schools. It's why Catholic school graduates consistently go on to college, land better jobs, embrace faith, and lead. Louisiana Catholic Schools, in a class of their own.
Welcome back to Our Schools, Our Future. Today I have Mr. Kevin Calkins with us, and he is from the Office of Catholic Schools. Welcome, Kevin. Thank you for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, I wanted you to come today to tell everyone the wonderful things that you're doing in the Office of Catholic Schools. As you go around from school to school, people have been most impressed. So you're new to the office and you come to us from Austin. Could you tell us a little bit about your role in Austin? I think you were principal of a high school.
That's right. Yeah, I was a principal of a brand new high school, St. Dominic Savio Catholic High School. It was a fabulous experience for me to open a high school from the ground up, literally from the ground up. The first year I was there, I actually worked out of a trailer while the high school was being built, and so that was really neat. And Archbishop Amen here in New Orleans used to be the bishop in Austin, and so that's how I eventually ended up here in New Orleans, because we maintained a relationship when he was moved to New Orleans, and I had kept talking to him and asking him about New Orleans, and then he put me in touch with this opportunity, and next thing you know, here I am.
Well, then you know what a wonderful archbishop he is, being the bishop in Austin as well. Now, I understand that you were down here, first of all, in Louisiana, and that's where you met your wife.
That's right. Both my wife and I have friends. Katie is from Baton Rouge, and my friend Rob and Katie were married there, and I actually met my wife at their wedding. And so it's kind of funny that we're back here in New Orleans, because we met in Baton Rouge, and here we are. So.
And I have to say, you have an adorable little boy in Lynn Lehman. I really enjoyed meeting him, and he is just so cute. Now, you are originally from New York.
Correct.
So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I grew up in Staten Island, New York City. My roots are there. My entire family is pretty much in the Northeast. My older brother moved out to North Carolina, and I left too, but otherwise everyone else is still up there. My wife is from California, and so after spending some time in California, we went to Austin, and then came here to New Orleans. But I miss my family a lot, but they're really supportive about my being here, and they look forward to coming down to New Orleans and enjoying some of the good food.
Well, let me ask you this. With the Office of Catholic Schools, could you explain a little bit about what your role is in the office, and when you go around and visit these other schools, what are you doing? Yeah,
well, my role primarily is to work with high schools, but I also help with Catholic identity in high schools and school facilities. And I'm amazed as I go around to all the different high schools. I've been to every high school now, and I'm starting to work my way into the elementary schools. I'm amazed at just how strong the schools are, how welcoming the people are, and how excited everyone seems to be there. It's really a really great energy that I've experienced.
And you also have had some fun at some of the football games.
That's right. I love high school football, and so I've enjoyed some of the games that I've seen. I saw Archbishop Rummel play St. Augustine. This past weekend I saw Archbishop Rummel and Jesuit play. I'm a graduate of 2 Jesuit colleges, and so I drink the Kool-Aid, so they say a little bit, but Archbishop Rummel got the better of Jesuit. It was a fantastic game, thousands of people there, and a really great environment.
You know, when I interviewed you for the position, what really struck me was your Catholic identity and how much that means to you. Can you describe a little bit about what a Catholic school looks like to you?
You know, it's hard to say what a Catholic school looks like, I think. You know, my answer to that question always is, you know, what are the people? Who are the people in the school? Ultimately, the people define the identity of the school. And so, for example, when I was in Austin, you know, I was very careful about the people that we brought on board to make sure that they were there first and foremost because they cared about the faith. And that if that were true, no matter if they were a math teacher, a science teacher, or a theology teacher, they would teach from a perspective of faith, even though it's really important to teach their individual subjects. And so to me, if you have the right people in the school, you ultimately have a really strong identity, a strong Catholic identity. And that's beyond, of course, all the symbols and things that you see in all of our Catholic schools here in New Orleans.
Well, I mean, I think you're exactly right. And that's one thing, when I go to our schools, I really see kids being treated in the most sacred way. And as you also said, the energy that's in our schools and the excitement and enthusiasm, I think that is truly just a wonderful trademark of our Catholic schools, because teachers are there as a ministry, right. and teachers are there to impart our faith on the youth of our church, and I think that's so very important. Now, I know you were at the Youth Day.
Yeah, World Youth Day this past weekend at Loyola, and it was a great experience for me to be there, to see, you know, there were hundreds of kids there. I saw the Archbishop there, and I was there with Sister Mary Ellen Wheelahan from the Office of Safe Environments, and we presented on cyberbullying. And we had about 50 kids in the room, and it was great to talk with them and engage in conversation about this really difficult issue, and that it's important to talk about. So I enjoyed being there. It was great.
Well, you know, Kevin, we are just so glad that you're in the office. And like I said, everyone is so impressed with what you bring to the Office of Catholic Schools in New Orleans. And we just want to thank you. Thank you for bringing your family down here and moving to New Orleans. Just real quickly, what have you found unique about New Orleans since you've been here?
Everything.
That's a good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Well, once again, thank you so much for being with us today.
All right.
And thank you for your ministry in Catholic education.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with Dr. Karen Collins from St. Augustine.
What will the world ask of them? Whatever it is, they'll be prepared to answer. Because in a safe and disciplined environment, Louisiana Catholic schools shape tomorrow's leaders. Catholic students are rising. 99% graduate. Almost all go to college. They'll earn higher wages, be community involved, more tolerant of diverse views. And the world will be better because of them. Louisiana Catholic schools, in a class of their own.
Imagine America's largest stage, dark. Or the nation's biggest schoolhouse, empty. Or the greatest library of documentary programming, closed forever. It could happen if funding for PBS is eliminated. Find out more about the threat to PBS at 170millionamericans.org.
Welcome back. I'm here with Dr. Karen Collins, the president of St. Augustine High School. Karen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, this is your first year at St. Augustine.
Yes.
And it seems like you're really enjoying yourself. Every time I've talked to you,
right.
you
it's
seem
a good
really
experience.
excited. Well, could you tell us a little bit about how did you end up at St. Augustine?
Well, I've been working in St. Louis, Missouri. My husband is there, and I decided to come back home for a little while to work on the house and look for employment here. That was the position at St. Augustine was advertised. I applied for the job and had no idea that I was going to make it through the top round. And then, of course, when they called me for round 2, for the finalists, I was elated.
Well, that's wonderful. And then here we are.
Yes.
And how is it being back in New Orleans and being home? Because this is your home.
Yes, it is. Born and raised in New Orleans. It's wonderful being back here. I am eating the food again. The food was not the same in Missouri, but I've enjoyed being back home.
And you have a history with St. Augustine, as far as you went to St. Mary's.
Yes.
And I think your brother went to St. Augustine?
My brother went to St. Augustine. I was at St. Mary's Academy. And we had a good life in our high school years. We really did, following all of the games of basketball. You know, at that time, St. Mary's girls were the only students that participated in the homecoming events. And so I had an opportunity to do a lot of events with St. Aug as a young adult.
Well, can you tell us of some initiatives that have been going on at St. Augustine this year? Some of the things that you have embarked upon under your administration?
Well, one of the things that we're doing right now, and as a result of Hurricane Katrina, our middle school is back on campus, and it has been for some time. But we've rearranged how we approach our middle school student as a pre-adolescent, and how we are working with the academics so that it works to the advantage of the adolescent learner. So they're all in one area of the school, and then our high school students are on the second floor and then the other areas of the building and the grounds. It's been interesting because everyone is excited about finding new ways to teach both middle school student and high school student on the same campus, and then connect some of the other activities that we have that go along with, you know, everyone loves the athletics and the Marching 100, but we use that as an incentive to keep our students motivated. Our academics are the priority.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful. And you know, recently, as far as the Catholic identity of St. Augustine, I was so honored and privileged to be at the recent Max Mass that Archbishop Amen celebrated.
Yes.
That was, what a phenomenal celebration. If you could tell us a little bit about the history of that and just your thoughts, that would be wonderful.
I was not here when the Max originally formulated it. It formulated as a result of the schools closing right after Hurricane Katrina, and Xavier Prep's campus was available. The administrators of the 3 schools who share cultural identity decided that it would be best to not lose their enrollment if they could pull them all together on one campus. And so they did. Now, they remained together for a little more than a year. They participated in all of the activities together.
Now, that was
2000 St. Mary's, St. Augustine, and Xavier Prep.
Max.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
And then after they went to their separate schools, they more or less went their separate ways. This year, I was just intrigued with, this summer when I got to St. Augustine, I was intrigued with all of the concepts that were going on with Max and how they combine their efforts to be able to stay strong, not only as a voice in the community for African American students, but to share their cultural diversity with everyone else. And it was just something that I thought if we could revisit, it would be a good experience for all of us. And so I approached Joe Pesha, who is at Xavier Prep, and Sister Claire, who's at St. Mary's Academy, and they took it from there. It was absolutely a wonderful experience. All of the students participated in it. We had great media coverage, and the Archbishop celebrated the Mass, but he was surrounded by our Josephite priests. It was awesome to see.
I felt the same way. I was taking pictures before Mass and just trying to have something to remember the special day, because it was indeed just a very special day and a true celebration. And it's almost time for us to wrap up, but I was just wondering if there was anything else that you would like to share about St. Augustine or about your journey here, or anything else?
With St. Augustine, you know, our students are model young men. They are learning the elements of what it takes to become a man. And we start that in our 6th grade classes all the way through our senior high school years. But there's one other little thing that I want to bring up with the Max that was something that will remain in the minds of the all of the students that were there. As we ended the Mass and all of the priests marched out of the church, the Archbishop stayed. He was in full regalia. He still had his everything on, and he shook the hand of every student that walked through that door.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And when you think of the number of students that we had at St. Augustine with 660 alone, that's a lot of hands to shake. The young men were thrilled. I saw the ladies shaking, the young students at St. Mary's and Prep shaking his hand. That took a lot, and that will remain in the minds of all of our young Catholics at St. Augustine forever.
Well, you know, as Kevin mentioned, we really are so lucky to have Archbishop Amen as our Archbishop. And it was a very special celebration, and I think it's going to remain on the minds of a lot of people for a very long time. So I thank you for being a part of that, and I thank you for everything that you're doing at St. Augustine this year. We just love having you on board, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you.
Thank you for the support, too. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And we will be right back with the principal of St. Clement of Rome, and he will share some new initiatives that are happening at St. Clement. Thank you.
It's happening in schools and schoolyards. A timeless tradition is rekindled with every new class, in every new phase. In Louisiana Catholic schools, learning goes beyond textbooks and testing. Students are embracing faith, values, leadership skills, and of course, a classic history of academic excellence. Invest in success. Louisiana Catholic schools, a class of their own.
Welcome back. I have with me Chad Howitt, the principal of St. Clement of Rome School. Chad, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Lancaster.
Well, if you could tell us some neat things that are happening at St. Clement. You have a new initiative going on in the middle school this year?
Yes, I'd be happy to. It's based in gender-based instruction, which is differential instruction. So the idea being that we need to communicate to the students in the mode of their understanding. So Thomas Aquinas says communication takes place in the mode of the receiver. So we have to think about the receiver, the students. How do they learn best? And what we've decided to do this year, based on differentiated instruction, is to differentiate by gender, so by boys and girls. So our middle school, which is defined as 5, 6, and 7, we separate along the lines of boys and girls in certain classes. So we still have our honors math and our honors English, which are co-educational, so both boys and girls in there. But for the remainder of the classes, we separate them by boys and girls. And we've found some wonderful results that have taken place just in the 3 months that we've been in school and started this initiative.
Well, can you share some of those neat things that you're finding with us?
Well, what's interesting, that when you go into a classroom of all boys or all girls, what happens is when there's one gender, the confidence level shoots up. And that's shown in the classroom through participation. So a student who may have been a little bit shy, or a student who would be more reserved before in both classes, is now willing to raise their hand and answer questions and participate. What's really fascinating is to go into the boys' religion class. The boys' religion class before, they would always look over their shoulder, who was going to see me if I answered this question? Now they are participating, they're really enjoying being in the class, and we can engage them at a deeper, more profound level. I mean, obviously the gender in each of us is such a defining factor of who we are and how we approach the world. and allows us to speak to them about spirituality that affects that specific gender, and also allows us to teach them about how to mature, how to become a full man and a full woman, especially during this adolescent time frame. So it's got a lot of different facets. One facet is, of course, the maturation of the student in their emotional and physical maturation, but also in their academic maturation. What we notice is that we could take a book, for example, in reading class and tailor it specifically to a girl or a boy so that they're engaged at a deeper level. In science class, we have noticed the girls flourish. There's no longer, wait, let me see if anybody else knows the answer, because you're it. This is just your friends. And so they raise their hand and participate at different levels. And another thing that we've really noticed is that the boys and the girls, they've formed this little fraternity and sorority among themselves. It has really brought them closer together as a group and as a class. And they engage with one another outside of class, so at recess and at cafeteria. So socially, they're still engaging boys and girls. So we want that aspect. We don't want to lose that aspect. Friday night we had our sock hop, from middle school sock hop, and it was so much fun to see the two, at a very difficult age, engage with one another and socialize with one another. So we want that aspect, but then where the research shows that in a classroom they benefit, we separate them where they can benefit. So we feel we really have the best of both worlds. Academically, they're benefiting where the research says they should be, but socially, they're still engaging with one another. Dr. Lancaster, as you know, the kids that they meet in middle school, those are the ones that they're going to take on their first date when they go to the homecoming in 9th grade.
Right.
So it's that social aspect that they get to know one another, but also the academic benefits. So it's been a lot of blessed results so far.
And your teachers have expressed this, and they see that difference.
Well, what's interesting is not just the students who like it. Like I said, they form this real close-knit group of friends, but also the teachers like it and don't mind the extra preparation that it takes. And also the parents. I have received a lot of positive feedback from the parents who have seen socially the students mature, and also academically how they're more engaged and participating in a class where they may have sat back before, they're not any longer.
That's wonderful. And to get that feedback, especially after just 3 months.
Right.
I think that's
it's early on, and we're really looking forward to our standardized tests to see as it plays out in more academic ways on a standardized test. Because obviously, if you're reading and participating at a deeper level, then it's going to impact your academic performance.
Yeah, that's great. You know, another committee on which you serve that has been just instrumental this year is you serve on the subcommittee of the Superintendent's Advisory Council for grade level structure.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that's going, the different grade level structure with the strategic plan?
Well, we're in a historic time. This is a historic time in the Archdiocese as we're able to step back with our Archbishop and with you as our leaders to look at what is the best way that we can create a grade level structure that allows our students to flourish spiritually, that addresses their spiritual and sacramental preparation, that addresses their academic preparation to make sure that we have excellent schools and that they're geared towards excellence. And that also they're financially viable. So those things are sort of the criteria that we've been looking at as we form this, what we want to try to do with grade level configuration. So our proposals, that's the word I was looking for. So the proposals that we're putting together, those are the three criteria that we're using to work on that. So.
And you know, one of the things I think that I want everyone to know is that both the Office of Catholic Schools, this subcommittee, we're open to anyone's suggestions and anyone's ideas. And we've gotten a lot of them.
Yes.
Really good suggestions that are helping us look at what we can possibly do.
What I've noticed is all the recommendations and suggestions that we have as a subcommittee. We've taken them, but also just the subcommittee itself. It's got a great mix of different regions around the Archdiocese and also different grade levels, secondary and primary, and just the engagement. We often will play devil's advocate with one another. Well, what about this proposal? Or what about that? Or here's a weakness here that we may not be seeing. So with that engagement, with so many different approaches to a particular problem, we're really moving forward and addressing what needs to be addressed. And like I said, it's historic time. So as we come together with all these different proposals, and as a committee look at these proposals, we're going to be able to propose something to you and the Archbishop that that's going to change Catholic education in the Archdiocese for years to come.
And you know what? That's how I know it's your ministry, Chad, because whenever we need anything, you step up and you really give it your all. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your ministry and everything that you do for Catholic education. I've been at St. Clement. It is just a wonderful school. And obviously, as I've said to some of our administrators, I can feel the sacredness that you offer and the way that you're educating the youth of our church in our faith. So I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. God has blessed us in the Archdiocese and at St. Clement.
Well, and we're so glad you're here. You were with us here today. So thank you very much for that as well.
Absolutely.
And I also thank you for joining us for another episode of Our Schools, Our Future. I hope you'll join us again next month, where we will have another update on the strategic plan, as well as tell you more about exciting things going on in Catholic schools.